What I'm after when I draw my pictures is I'm after your guts. I want you to feel something. I don't want you to like me necessarily. It's like the same with my characters. And what I'm after when I draw is evocation. It's not pretty. I love beauty. I don't care about pretty. I got to draw a couple of issues of the secondary Spider-Man title. They've guest starred this character, Daredevil, that I'd never really paid much attention to. I mean, I'd read the old Stan Lee, Gene Colan issues, and I really enjoyed them, but I had never thought of this guy as a major player. And this guy, Daredevil, I kind of dug him because, well, how many superheroes are known for what they can't do?
Puta que pariu, velho. Essa frase, cara, quantos personagens são conhecidos pelo que eles não podem fazer? E é o caso do Demolidor, né? Ele não ouve. Não ouve. Ele não enxerga. E ele é muito lembrado por isso. Ele é um super-herói cego, né?
I mean, Superman can fly and lift up buildings and all of that. Batman's ridiculously smart and he's got all the technology in the world, and Spider-Man can spin webs and swing across buildings. Daredevil, he's blind. He can't see. That's his distinguishing feature. I fell in love. This guy was perfect. He could be the perfect hard-boiled superhero. Along the way, I decided he had to be a Catholic because only a Catholic could be a vigilante and an attorney at the same time.
Ah, vocês sabem, né, a catarse que foi o Coleção Mais Pesquisa sobre o Demolidor, a queda de Murdoch, que vocês estão vendo aí na imagem, né? Se você está assistindo aqui esse vídeo e ainda não assistiu o Coleção Mais Pesquisa sobre a edição de artista da queda de Murdoch, para esse vídeo agora e vá assistir. É um dos nossos preferidos lá. Muitos dos inscritos do canal do YouTube adoram, né? Mas esse comentário do Miller, ao mesmo tempo, ele se torna uma declaração de amor ao personagem, o que despertou-lhe o interesse em trabalhar com o Demolidor, mas ao mesmo tempo ele olhou uma oportunidade de ouro. Porque, para quem não sabe, esse período que o Frank Miller prestou serviço como novato na Marvel, o Dennis O'Neil era um dos seus editores. E o Dennis O'Neil, ele meio que adota o Miller. O Miller era moleque, estava indo morar em Nova York, não tinha grana, tinha que pagar as contas, às vezes ficava sem luz, às vezes ficava, sabe, tinha que ter uma grana ali para comer, esse tipo de coisa. E aí quando ele começa a pegar trabalho na Marvel, ele vai pegando esses trampos mais soltos, assim, e quando ele assume algumas das artes do gibi do Demolidor, o gibi que estava para novamente ser cancelado, as vendas estavam despencando, ele tá lá dentro da revista, ainda tinha um outro roteirista, eles iam cancelar a revista, ele falou pro Dennis O'Neil, cara, eu tô afim de escrever e desenhar essa revista. Tem problema? Eu posso fazer? O Dennis O'Neil pensou assim, não, o guri é bom, mas assim, se der problema, o gibi vai ser cancelado, então não vai ter, não vai dar estresse, né? Quem sabe até o gibi melhor de venda, né? Mas vamos lá, experimenta algumas coisinhas aí. E o Miller foi a loucura com isso, né? E ele começa a construir todo esse passado do Demolidor que ficava muito en passant, né? E aí ele começa a botar esse passado religioso dele, a veia irlandesa mais forte, a parada católica também do personagem. Essa cena que a gente tá vendo aqui, de se saber, né, que a mãe do Demolidor é uma freira também, foi outra sacada genial dele, e assim por diante. Inclusive o Ricardo comentou aqui, o corte, né, do Coleção Mais Pesquisa que eu fiz, o corte, né, que tem, é a coisa mais engraçada que eu já vi sobre uma HQ. Também tem esse, se você não conhece o corte, a minha declaração de amor à queda de Murdoch, meu ASMR inverso em alguns momentos, dá uma olhadinha também aí no vídeo no YouTube, no meu canal.
So I think religion and politics both have a very profound relation to comics because cartooning is taking reality and making it more so. It's like Hitchcock said about melodrama, is reality with all the boring parts taken out. There was a lot of ruckus when I was working on Daredevil as it found its voice, because the violence was so harsh and because people were getting cut up. Mostly it was the harshness of it, the way that had a strong reaction from people, because it was as if I brought whiskey into a playground or something. In comics, in comic books, in superhero comics, people have wasted an awful lot of creative energy and hard work looking for kids who aren't there. The audience who read Daredevil was not juvenile. They weren't. And I got this character who'd been pretty, I mean, I think even the most generous people would call it a grade B character. He was the poor man's Spider-Man. And everybody knew that. But I kind of saw this guy as being something much cooler. That's...
Miller percebeu, né, cara, que ao mesmo tempo que muitos falam, o Demolidor é o Spider-Man mais elegante, tem muito aquela questão, nossa, ele é muito mais legal, as histórias são muito mais com uma pegada adulta. E ele constatou isso, né? Que no fim, ao trabalhar no título Demolidor, ele percebeu que não era moleque que lia o Demolidor.
Been the guy I punish for all my, mistakes and sins, because he really is. He is a flawed hero in that he's a man who intends to do good and causes much damage. Matt should have been a villain. He had a horrible childhood. His romantic life is the worst. Oh, sure, the girls look great, but they end up dead or killing him or something.
Exatamente, velho. O Demolidor é muito... Cara, é um zoado do caralho, né, velho? Toda mulher que vai se relacionar com ele ou morre ou quer matar ele.
But somehow this guy redeems himself and moves ahead. He just doesn't give up. He's just like his dad. With Born Again, what I was really at, it was I think the first of a series of works that I've been involved with, where I've looked at taking the machinery of the hero apart and putting it back together in leaner form, so it was more pure. An awful lot of the conventions of the superheroes comes from the fear that was generated in the 1950s by the Senate hearings and the Comics Code and all that censorious nonsense. In Born Again, I really wanted to just say, okay, once and for all, I know you guys were moving fast. I mean, I know you guys, I know Stan, Bill, Stanley, Bill Everett, Wally Wood, all the rest. I know we all have to work for a living, and I know you kind of bashed this one out, okay? But let's take a look at it. Let's take a look at what works. And the Catholicism angle worked. And the senses work. I mean, Daredevil is by far one of the sexiest hero in comics. But beyond that, this lawyer vigilante thing, I mean, it's always been shaky. It's a fun contradiction, but it's a contradiction. And so I thought, break it down, destroy him. And then have the real deep hero emerge. And what I thought was the winning idea was I got rid of the costume for a good long time.
Yeah.
And so that he wasn't wearing the tights, and you realize the hero wasn't the costume. The costume was just dressing around the hero. I introduced Elektra in the first issue of Daredevil that I wrote. I'd been waiting to bring her in. I thought there was something stupid about the way superheroes always had these normal girls for girlfriends. Why? I mean, why would there be a Lois Lane to Superman? Why wouldn't he be running around with Wonder Woman?
Ele fez isso, né, no Cavaleiro das Trevas, né?
Why wouldn't these people be operatic in their romance the way they are in their combat? I mean, is there anything more insipid than seeing some superhero in a love scene and all of a sudden he's just another guy who looks like us in a bed naked? No, these people bring down buildings with their passion. That's what they do with their fights. And Daredevil needed a romance that was worthy of him, of his passion and his physicality. And Elektra is such a good Greek myth. From the house of Atreus, Agamemnon as her dad, and as a vengeful force. And also, come on, Freud named a complex after her, and she's got issues. And I just expanded upon that. And also, I mean, it was just an exploration of what I guess superhero sex would be like. I've been writing.
Vocês acabaram de ouvir o Frank Miller deixar bem claro que quando ele criou o Elektra, ele pensou assim: super-heróis não devem namorar pessoas normais. Tem que ser gente maluca para andar com uma pessoa assim. O que eles iam querer com uma pessoa normal? E, ao mesmo tempo, o que uma pessoa normal ia querer com uma pessoa perturbada como essa? Né? Isso tem que estar em pé de igualdade. Né? E aí ele cria Elektra.
I guess superhero sex would be like. I've been writing Daredevil for a few months when I told him I wanted to steal the Kingpin away from Spider-Man. That was risible at Marvel. Like, who the hell wants the Kingpin? He was the Jackie Gleason of supervillains. I mean, he might as well have been called Fat Man. Because what he mainly did was he used his belly to fight Spider-Man. He was not known as the most brilliant achievement of the Stan Lee regime, okay? But he was just what I needed, because I needed a gang lord. And my colleague John Byrne took me aside at one point. And
Ó, vai citar aí, ó, do papo que ele teve com o Bernie.
and my colleague John Byrne took me aside at one point. And you know, as he was doing his X-Men run, and we were just having a ball being rivals at the time. And he said, you know what you gotta do? He said, you gotta do is this. You draw this guy the way he's been drawn for the whole first issue he's in. And I went, yeah? John was older and entered the field earlier than I did. And he said, then you turn him into a Frank Miller character. Light him. You're the guy who does the lighting. And he gave me a wonderful moment, which is where the Kingpin goes from being this line clear guy, you know, visually conceived by John Romita, who has one of the most beautiful lines that the field has ever seen. And then I have him light up a cigarette, and all of a sudden he was mine.
Legal isso, né? Legal isso, né? Posso que você agora vai pegar o seu encadernadinho lá do Demolidor, do Miller, e vai olhar toda aquela primeira edição que o Rei do Crime aparece e vai se ligar. Pô, é verdade, né? Ele é todo com linhas claras, aquele esqueminha do broche, bem retrozinho, né? Que nem o Romitão fazia. Aí, de repente, tu tem aquele rompante de violência e só nessa transição ali do cigarrinho da luz toda mudando. E vamos lembrar, o Rei do Crime era um personagem do Aranha. Quem lembra do Rei do Crime interagindo com a Aranha? Muito pouco. Só quem leu o quadrinho do Romitão. Quem lembra do Rei do Crime sendo um algoz do Demolidor? Então notem, né, o peso, né, que teve essa transição do personagem, a mudança, não diria nem de status quo, mas de leitmotiv, né, de apresentação, de motivação do personagem. Tornou ele muito mais visceral, né?
There's a tension with the Kingpin, Bullseye, and Elektra and Daredevil that all was a psychodrama. Bullseye is the ultimate bad boy. He's a psychopathic killer, yes, but he's really good at it, and he's really smart. The final act of the Elektra story had to involve him, and she had to be cruelly and coldly murdered by the worst possible enemy Daredevil ever had, because it was his ultimate humiliation. Along with losing the love of his life, he also, it was in such foul circumstance that the man was mocking her as he murdered her. And I don't think the symbolism of that sigh going through her was lost on much anybody. I mean, it was a rape murder in a superhero comic. It's pretty weird. To this day, I'm still surprised that Marvel was able to just say, okay. And in comics, you can't waste time. Comics exist in time. The reader is moving through time. It's not gallery work. And so you have to know how to produce it expeditiously, because that's where comics gain their energy. That's what makes them sexy. That's what makes them fun, is that they don't slow down. So yeah, I came in wanting to make comics more cinematic. I stay in wanting to make them less so.
É por isso que é o Frank Miller. Ele criou esse paralelo perfeito entre o cinema e o quadrinho. E a gente sabe que tem muitos autores cinemáticos, mas o Miller, com a sua influência do Eisner, né? Ou seja, observando o que o Eisner fez, esse senso cinemático no Demolidor, ele explodiu a cabeça de muita gente. A minha, quando eu era moleque, e a de muita gente que regula de idade comigo. E acredito que até pessoas mais novas que vieram a ler isso antes de lerem outras obras. Evidentemente que se você lê algo muito mais arrojado e compara com o que está na época, tu pode até pensar assim, beleza, eu li o que tá visto antes, pra mim valeu mais. Mas aí é que tá o gap da coisa. Estamos falando em início dos 80. Isso era muito incomum. A própria influência do mangá no trabalho do Miller, que sempre foi muito cabeça aberta para ler outras coisas, trouxe essa dinâmica que não era comum nos comics, ainda mais no período da Era de Bronze. Romitinha, Romitinha!